Hey YouTube, and welcome to another episode of All Knives Matter. I'm your host, Knight16, and we're going to be talking about the U.S. pilot survival knife. More specifically, the camillus, but we're also going to mention this Ontario. So let's dive right into that. Okay, so first let's talk about this camillus pilot's knife, and then we'll talk a little bit about the Ontario, but the video is really about this camillus. First off, this camillus was my uncle's. He was in the military. I'm not sure how he acquired this knife. You can see it has his initials and it has his serial number here. He might have acquired it by being issued it, or he could have purchased it. I'm really not sure because this is a pilot's knife and my uncle was in the Army. So I'm not really sure, and he was not a pilot in the Army. So I'm not really sure how he acquired this knife. If you know of any instances of anybody being issued this knife that was not an Air Force pilot, please let me know. But anyway, we'll go on to the knife. It has a 5-inch long blade. It has a Bowie style tip on it, which looks really nice. It has a saw on the back, which would probably be useful for mostly just making notches and stuff like that. If you're going to make traps or something, because this is a survival knife mostly. It's also a combat knife, but it's mainly a survival knife. It has this rectangle guard, which is just a little bit loose. And I don't know if it was that way from the factory, but this is an old knife, so it could have just happened over use. It has 2 holes here. I think that's for lashing, like if you want to make a spear or something like that. Could be wrong about that, but I think that's what that's for. It has this really nice pommel. You can tell there where it's been peened. Let's measure it and see how long this knife is. This knife is, let's see here, 9 3/4 inches long. Okay, so now let's take a look at the sheath. First off, it is all leather constructed. It has a strap here with a snap, so you can snap the blade in and it don't fall out. It has slits in it instead of a belt loop. It has 2 holes here and 2 holes sticking out of the end for lashing. It is held together with the brass rivets and also has stitching. It has a sharpening stone with it that snaps in there. The knife fits very well into this sheath. Snap there, and it's not coming out. Now that you looked at this, let's compare it to the Ontario. This is an Ontario made knife. It is missing the snap, unfortunately, so I just put this little piece of leather on here so it would stay in my drawer. Pull this out. You can tell that this knife has been abused more. It's shorter than this knife, because apparently the previous owner, who I know, who could have very well been issued this knife too, he was in the military, he gave me this knife, but he probably broke it off. He carried this knife hunting and used it a lot. It also has the saw on the back here. It also has the same guard, the same handle, and the same pommel. They're very, very, very similar. The sheath is a little different. It has a steel piece on here that the rivets are in. These knives were identified by the inscriptions that were put on the pommels. So I don't know if you can see that or not. Hopefully you can see that. But this knife says Camillus, New York, 11/1980. This is the Ontario, and it also has its identification right here. I don't know if you can see, it's harder to see on this knife, but it says Ontario 10/76. So if that is the date, this one is older than the camillus. But both of them are really good knives. I like both of them. They still are completely usable years later. That's pretty much the rundown of these 2 knives. I hope you've enjoyed seeing them. We'll take them both out of the sheath and let you get a view of both of them. You can see one's been a little more abused than the other, but they both have held up very well. Oh, something I didn't mention that is interesting. This knife has the fuller, so does this one, But hopefully you can see that the fuller on this knife is wider than this one, which is interesting. That's pretty neat. And I think actually, come to think of it, I think this one is just a little bit wider. It swells right here just a little bit more. That could be due to sharpening over the years. I'm not sure about that. But they're still basically the same knife. So thank you for watching this. I sure appreciate it. We'll see you in the next one. This has been Night 16 with All Knives Matter. Night out.